Over the past few days, we've been dealing with the situation wherein Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was apparently accosted by a Republican representative, Ted Yoho, outside of the Capitol building, where he used incredibly inflammatory language to and about her. Yesterday, he gave what passes for an apology for a Republican congressman, wherein he didn't even mention what he had said or who he had said it to. And now today we have AOC, who took to the House floor to address the entirety of this. And we have a couple of videos we want to show you. It is powerful stuff, starting with she relays what actually happened, the initial confrontation, then going into vote, and then what happened after that.
I walked back out, and there were reporters in the front of the Capitol. And in front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, bitch. These are the words that Representative Yoho levied against a congresswoman who represents New York's 14th congressional district, but every congresswoman and every woman in this country, because all of us have had to deal with this in some form, some way, some shape, at some point in our lives. And I want to be clear that Representative Yoho's comments were not deeply hurtful or piercing to me, because I have worked a working class job. I have waited tables in restaurants. I have ridden the subway. I have walked the streets in New York City. And this kind of language is not new.
So we definitely have more. I had expected that with his embarrassing display with what passes for an apology, that would be the end of it, that we wouldn't hear from her. But I'm very glad that we did. What do you think about the back and forth there? I know you have more knowledge about Yoho than I do.
Well, I mean, forgetting Ted Yoho, he's a backbencher. He's an unimpressive member of Congress. He ran for speaker, actually, some time ago. He got 2 votes when he ran for speaker, probably one from himself. But he's a piece of dust in the Congress. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez there is doing what a lot of people haven't done, which is call people out for the false apology, right? I mean, if you heard Congressman Yoho's apology, you would have. Yeah, I heard it. And I was like, what? He didn't apologize, and he didn't mention her name. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is less about Ted Yoho than it is about, in general, you standing up for women and standing up for her female colleagues as well. And I think that was the great effect of this, and I'm sure everybody's really happy she did it. It was very impressive.
Exactly, and as you alluded to, that she didn't make it just about him and her. Basically, she talked about him as a representative of a culture where this is a universal, not just for congresswomen, but for all women. And I want to turn to that section now.
And that's when we start to see that this issue is not about one incident. It is cultural. It is a culture of lack of impunity, of accepting of violence and violent language against women, and an entire structure of power that supports that. Because not only have I been spoken to disrespectfully, particularly by members of the Republican Party and elected officials in the Republican Party, not just here, but the President of the United States last year told me to go home to another country, with the implication that I don't even belong in America.
She also mentions, I think it might have been DeSantis that called her a whatever she is, or something like that, some other weird dehumanizing phrase. And we've seen that against AOC, against other new congresswomen like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and others. This idea that you can, without consequences, viciously attack them, demonize them, otherize them, and that not even without consequences, but in fact, positive consequences. That if you're a member of right-wing media and you do this, you'll get more viewers. If you're a right-wing politician and you do this, you'll be considered more of like a fighter for conservative values and things like that. It's horrifying, and it's what they have right now in modern day Republican identity politics. Attacking women like AOC is just about all they have.
I think it's important that we also point out that it was a good week for women standing up on Capitol Hill in a way that you wouldn't expect, which is that Republicans attacked one of their own in Liz Cheney. And we don't have a lot of nice things to say about the politics of Liz Cheney, but she stood up to those attacks and so did Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I think that when you see these two members of Congress who could not be from more polar opposite points of view going at people within their own body, all of them Republican, it speaks volumes about how, we're not going to take it anymore is maybe taking hold in some circles.
Yeah.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.